G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and back again with yet another trade video. It's been being highlighted a lot in my channel recently, and I've got another video for you guys. I'll be ranking every single player in the trade period, obviously on a tier maker. This tier maker was made by Blaze17. So yeah, I'm just using that, and obviously we've got the categories over here in star player, instant impact, best 22, depth, and development. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it with the first one in Zach Fisher. Now for North Melbourne, he'll be a best 22 player. Just because, North Melbourne, they don't exactly have an amazing list at the moment. I read today that they only have 5 players on their list, over 25. Zach Fisher's a good young player with a lot of experience. They've talked about him playing in defence and on the wing, so I see him being a best 22 player in 2024 for North Melbourne. We'll change things up a bit. We'll go with Brendan Ryan. I honestly think he could be a best 22 player for Brisbane. And that's mainly just because Chris Fagan likes playing 3 key forwards. And, they've got Joe Danaher, Eric Hipwood. They've lost Jack Gunston from the trade period. So you would think that Brendan Ryan would be next in line, if not Darcy Fort. So, you probably feel that he'll be getting some games. Overall, he would be a depth player for most clubs, but I might whack him in best 22 for now. Dylan Stephens is another Kangaroo that joined the Kangaroos this year. Another player that joined the Kangaroos this year from the Swans. The former number 5 draft pick went there just for more experience after being, dropped multiple times in the last few years under the Swans, and hasn't really got a great gig there with all the talent that the Swans have, especially on the wings, and Braden Campbell, Errol Goulden, recruiting James Jordan. That was just it for Dylan Stephens. Went to the Kangaroos. He'll be getting games there. It's a good home for him. He's a best 22 player, in my opinion, for North Melbourne. Same with Paddy Dow. He'll be a best 22 player for Carlton. Not for Carlton, for St Kilda. Obviously, leaving Carlton. Obviously, his career hasn't gone the way that everyone would have at least thought it would have and hoped. But he'll be hoping to turn it around at a new club. A fresh start for Paddy Dow. I do think he'll be in St Kilda's best 22. But, if there's form that lets him down, he could be dropped from the best 22. The next one I'm going to rank is Brodie Grundy, and he is an instant impact player. Now, I've seen lots of people put him in star player. He's not that good. He's not elite. He's a pretty good ruckman, especially seeming of his age. I think he's turning 31 next year. But he's just not that good. But, Sydney don't have any other ruckman, so he'll be an instant impact player. Getting games regularly for them. Same with Ben Mackay. He'll be hoping that he can finally, break in and actually cement his spot in a AFL team that can win games. So, under Brad Scott as well. He spent a bit of time under him already in his career. Could be a good move for Ben Mackay. The next one I'm going to rank is Jordan Sweet. Now, he's a bit of an interesting one. He would have been a best 22 for most people, but with Port Adelaide still not delisting Sam Hayes and Scott Lycett, it's hard to say where he's going to be. Plus, they got Soldo, who's probably better than Sweet in my opinion, so I'm going to put him in depth. He'll still get games, you'd think, though, for Port, so yeah, I'm going to put him in depth for now. Moving on to Joel Hamling, he's also a depth player, in my opinion, for the Swans. I've seen lots of people saying that he'd be a best 22 player just because of Sydney's key defensive stocks at the moment, but I do think he will be a player that will be playing in the VFL and will get call-ups if there's injuries or form issues for the Swans. I do not see him being a best 22 player. If he couldn't get a game at Freo, he can't get a game at Sydney. That's basically my logic for this one. Moving on to another depth player in Massimo D'Ambrosio, who's obviously left Essendon for more experience. Yeah, it's funny that he left them after only 1.5 years on their list. Obviously picked up in the mid-season draft last year. Was originally a defender, has now moved into a midfielder type forward role, which could get him more games at Hawthorn. Then again, they kind of do need defenders, so yeah, it's kind of hard to say what his role is going to be within the side so far. It's a bit too early. We haven't seen him actually play for the Hawks. We don't know what position he's going to play, so it's just too hard to tell for Massimo D'Ambrosio too early. Xavier Dersma, I've seen lots of people put him in instant impact and even star player, and I will probably whack him in instant impact because Essendon, no offense to the Bombers, but they're not exactly the best of teams. And he'd slot straight into that best 22 on the wing. He'll make a nice impact. He'll definitely be up there. And yeah, I reckon he belongs in instant impact. Definitely not star player like I've seen a few people put in. But yeah, he's a pretty good player though. Will definitely come in handy for Essendon. Bygonion, he's a development player. He needs a lot of development, which is probably why North Melbourne have insisted in getting him, not getting a contract offer from Richmond. North kind of need key defenders. And, yeah, Bygonion could be playing for North Melbourne next year in the AFL team. Who knows? He could be moved up to depth, but I haven't really seen too much about him. He has played a game, though, so, yeah, we'll just leave him there for now. Can always move things later. Jack Ginnivan will be an instant impact player for Hawthorn, unfortunately. Yeah, he's pretty crafty. He's good at kicking goals. Kicked 40-something in 2022 for us. And, yeah, he'll be in the best 22 every week, you would assume, Guinea. And, yeah, all the best to him. He'll probably have a pretty good season for the Hawks. Tom Doedee is one fairly underrated player from this draft period. He's going to have an instant impact at Brisbane. Now, I know because he's at Brisbane, he can't have the ability to be a star player, but he is almost there. And also, coming off an ACL, you never know. I'm going to whack him an instant impact. He'll slot straight in as soon as he's back from ACL, and it will make a difference in Brisbane's defence. For sure, Matthew Flynn, a bit of a fringy ruckman at the Giants. He's gone to West Coast just to get games, so he'll be in their best 22, in my opinion. And, yeah, we'll have to see what he's got. He's not going to have an instant impact, and I do believe he will stay in the best 22. Same with Todd Goldstein. I do think Todd Goldstein is a ruckman that could be, moved around and switched around a bit, and even, playing VFL, giving Nick Bryan a crack. If Sam Draper's out, then Todd Goldstein will be the main ruckman, you'll feel, for Essendon. But, yeah, best 22 we'll go with. It's a little bit early to tell with some of these players if they're going to do well at their clubs. But, yeah, moving on to Tyler Brockman, another West Coast Eagle. Now, he's a depth player because I've seen lots of West Coast fans say that he is not in their best 22. He couldn't crack in fully at the Hawks this year. And with West Coast, having a fairly strong forward line, not going to lie. Mind you, that gets injured a lot. I can see him being a best 22 player, though, if, of course, they have injuries. So we'll have to wait and see for Brockman. James Harms, look, I feel like he wouldn't have left the Bulldogs, left the D's to join another club that wouldn't really play him than the Bulldogs if they weren't going to play him. So I'm going to assume that Bevo's going to play him. So I'm going to put him in their best 22. He's actually a pretty underrated player, James Harms. He had a decent game, I remember, against Richmond this year where, he looked on for a moment there, but kept on missing his shots. Had 3 shots for the game. Could have had 25 touches. He may have even had 25 touches, I don't know, but he had a really impressive game where he just looked on, and if he can play like that for the Bulldogs, then he could change their wings. But yeah, anyways, moving on to the next one, Elijah Hollins. He's a depth player for Carlton. Let's be honest, they've got a lot of midfielders. A bit of wing midfielder. He's a handy player for them, though. Moving on to Liam Henry. Look, he's just going to be a best 22 player. He's not going to be anything amazing for St Kilda. He's a pretty good player, though, fairly underrated, and obviously wasn't quite rated as highly as what St Kilda rank him at Freo. Probably why he left. We'll definitely be getting a lot more games, you would think, under Ross Lyon. Chris Burgess is a depth player, that's for sure. I'm going to rack him at the end of depth because, look, Adelaide only will play him if they have injuries, which they already do to their key defenders, which is really why they got him. So, he could be playing in their best 22 if they obviously have injuries, but you can't really put a player of Chris Burgess's quality, and no offence to the guy, in best 22 just because they're going to have injuries. Now, in my opinion, Asava Radaglia is knocking on the door on star player. He's going to have an instant impact in Port Adelaide's defence. They've been needing a good intercept defender for so long, and I know Elia is that, but they've got a really undersized defence, and they've been playing Elia on the main key forwards. If they play Radaglia on the main key forward, it will more so help Elia. So basically, I feel like they've gotten Radaglia to help Elia. Now, Radaglia is going to be a pretty good player. In my opinion, he'd be best 22. But I've got to put him in instant impact because what he's going to do is going to help Elia so much. So he's knocking on the door on star player, to be honest, not going to lie. Jack Billings, I feel like he wouldn't have left to join a team like Melbourne when he was getting interest from teams like Fremantle, who would have definitely played him if he wasn't going to get a game. So he'll probably get a game for the days. Jack Billings. It'll be interesting to see what happens, though, but I'm going to leave him there for this video. Jade Gresham, they've got a decent forward line, Essendon, and he can ghost, I'm not going to lie, so I'll put him in best 22. He's definitely a best 22 player, but he can have those games where he's not quite so good. Then again, he can have those games where he can kick 3 goals and have 25 touches. So he's a pretty good player, knocking on the door and instant impact. Lachie Schultz, I've seen lots of people put him in star player. He's not quite that player yet, but boy oh boy, he's got potential. He's a really, really underrated player. Had a really good pickup for us, and I'm really excited to see what he can do for us next season. And can't wait for him to be playing in our team. Definitely a best 22 player. I've seen people also, criticise him, saying, he'll be playing in the VFL. That's not going to happen. Now, Tom Fullerton's an interesting one. Whether to put him in depth or development, I've been questioning. He does need a little bit of development, but he could be getting games for Melbourne. So I feel like I'm going to leave him in depth for now, but I could change that by the end of this video. Taylor Adams, he's a really impressive player. And, with Callum Mills' injury, he's going to have an impact at the Swans, nevertheless. So, and just that experience as well is definitely going to come in handy for the Swans. A really impressive pickup. Ivan Soldo's best 22. In my opinion, just because, Port Adelaide, they picked him up for a reason. They really wanted him. I rate him more than sweet. So, that's what I'm going to do for mine. Marbior Chol, he's a best 22 player for Hawthorn. Didn't quite, cementing spot on the side this year. Played 8 games. Was on the fringe. You can see why he left. He's left Dimmer for the second time in a row now. Brandon Zerk-Thatcher. I don't know. He's an interesting one. I might whack him at the end of best 22. He's got the potential to be an instant impact, but at the same time, he can have those horrible games like when he conceded 9 to Hogan and 7 or 8 to Hawkins this year. And then he can have those really impressive games, which I think he's played on, like Myercheck and other key forwards before, like Oscar Allen. So, it would be interesting to see what he does at Port, I guess. He's like their third tall defender. James Jordan's also a best 22 player for Sydney. he's going to be really impressive, I reckon. A really underrated pickup from the Swans. They've done really, really well there, getting a premiership player to Jacob Kaczynski. Now, he'll probably play, not going to lie. Tom Lynch, not even 100% certain for round one yet. It just shows you that Kaczynski will probably be playing and developing in a Richmond lineup that does look extremely interesting, especially the forward line. Shane McAdam will be a best 22 player for me as well. He can go to the bottom of best 22 just because Melbourne have such a tight forward line, I guess. They changed it up a lot. So, yeah, you can't exactly say he's going to be 100% certain in the side, but he'll be in there. Again, same with Jack Gunston. I'm going to put him in best 22 just for the video, but he won't be playing every single week, that's for sure. He's very old now, and Hawthorn have other priorities in their forward lines, and they might want to go with just the two key forwards in some games with Chol and Lewis and instead of Gunston, give him rests, you know what I mean? And then Nick Caulfield, in my opinion, he's a depth player for the Western Bulldogs. He hasn't played a lot recently. He hasn't played since 2021. He's missed a lot of footy. Now, I've realised that I haven't put any players in star players in a star player. So I probably should do that. I've got a lot of best 22 players. I feel like I probably should move some down. Though I don't actually see any that I should move down, except maybe move Brendan Ryan to the bottom of best 22. Probably a good idea. Don't think I should move anyone up. I'm pretty happy with the way this is going. And to be honest, there's no actual star player from this trade video. From this crop of players. Like Grundy's got the ability to be, which is why I'm going to move him up. And just for the sake of it, why not whack Schultz and star player? Because, in my opinion, he will become a star player for Collingwood. So there you go. There's the video. There's the ranking. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in the next one.